and it may be one of our prize winners tonight. So one of the features of the internet has been its openness, the ability of everybody to contribute to it. Its open source architecture, it's hard for some, particularly newbies now, to appreciate, but the adoption of the internet by everybody was not a foregone conclusion. There were competitors, and if you ask them, Frank March will tell you about coloured books and ISO standards. The old hands laugh at how passé those references now are. But part of its reason for success has also been the open and inclusive approach to governance of the internet. And in New Zealand, this came naturally. The New Zealanders involved in the early days had no trouble. Getting people connected was the priority, and having reliable systems that worked was to the forefront. Permitting capture by any sector or special interest seemed an obvious pitfall to avoid, as did providing a forum where all affected voices could be heard seemed the obvious way to go. So the Internet NZ motto, the Internet open and uncapturable, well reflects the New Zealand approach to control of this now crucial technology. So having these theories inculcated in me at an early age and seeing them work in practice, particularly by, let's call them the vociferous and let's call them our contentious times, was good training for me as I became involved in internet governance at the global level. As many of you know, in November 2007, the ICANN board elected me its chairman. ICANN is the global body of internet stakeholders that came together in 1998 to assume the role of coordinator of the internet's crucial resources. And that position has allowed me an unrivaled opportunity to observe and participate in some of the most exciting developments in the history of the internet. One of those affects the fundamentals of the domain name system, or DNS. And some of you will know that the DNS is a mapping system in which human-readable words in eye-catching or memorable phrases like trademe.co.nz or microsoft.com, got to get our sponsors' words in there. Those words in English are mapped onto a protocol address, which is like the telephone number of the internet. That's the telephone number of the computer that's connected to the internet. So in other words, when you ask your computer to find a website at, let's say, google.co.nz, anybody heard of Google? The DNS goes and looks up the corresponding IP address written in numbers that matches those English letters and connects your computer to the computer at that address. And obviously a similar process of looking up occurs when you send an email. Now this happens so fast that it's virtually instantaneous to a human observer. Okay, there are now 80 million domain names at the largest registry, .com, and about 10 million domain names in .net. Every day the company managing those two domains handles an average of 38 billion lookups. 38 billion lookups a day, on average. They get some big days as well. And things spike. Now, there are about 185 million domain names in total, including about 75 million registered in the country code registries like .nz that Internet NZ manages. And every one of those has billions of lookups a day. So clearly this is a system that we take great care of. Now, the change ICANN has been working on for the past several years involves changing the number of languages, or in fact, more accurately, the scripts with which that lookup system will operate. So for the past 30 years, the system has mapped words only from the script that we think of as computer English, technically known as ASCII. But the majority of the world doesn't speak English. It doesn't work in English, and most of their keyboards don't have English keys. And there are about 4.5 billion of them. And so carefully, and with guidance from the brightest in the technical community, ICANN is expanding the number of scripts so that domain names and hence email addresses and website locators can all use the scripts that the rest of the world uses. So in a short time from now, you will be seeing domain names written in Arabic, in Chinese, in Cyrillic, and the other non-English scripts. Now, these are going to be introduced while the system is humming at the rate of millions of lookups per second, billions of lookups a day, because, of course, we can't take the global internet down to make these changes. And these are incredible features that we're adding because they liberate people from the limits of English and we think they're going to allow the full flowering of human creativity. Now, another ICANN project is to open up allow enormous expansion in the range of available top-level domains. This is designed to allow competition with .com and the other incumbents. And we won't talk about much of that tonight, but the proposal is to allow applicants to open up anything they want as long as it does no harm and there is no contest for the operator rights. So already before this process has begun, we are seeing the promise of applications for .movie, .food, .sport, .green, .berlin, .paris, .eco, and many others. And I had the pleasure recently of receiving a letter from King Goodwill Buthelezi of the intention of that tribe to apply for .zulu. So these are going to be incredibly exciting additions to the architecture of the internet. And let me just give you one final example of exciting change, because we're here tonight to celebrate change and contributions to this process. Let's just talk very briefly about those numbers that I mentioned, the IP addressing system. Well, it turns out that it's finite. It only contains about 4 billion addresses. 30 years ago, and I think we really need to take you to task about this. What were you thinking of in 1968 and 1970? 30 years ago, 4 billion was an inconceivably large number of computers that would be connected to this network. Today, we can see a date in the next year or so when those numbers will all have been allocated. But rest assured, there is a solution which is already being rolled out, a new numbering system known as IP version 6, in contrast to the old IP version 4, is already available. And Internet NZ and others is explaining the new system to the community. Now, for the curious, the new numbering system has 340 trillion addresses. Take a moment to think about it. That's more than 700 computer connections for every square nanometer of the Earth's surface. So maybe we're making the same mistake. We think that might last us for a while. Now, I just mentioned these examples to share with you some of the dynamism and excitement of the internet. Some of my excitement at being involved in its development and its processes. Now, these are technical responses to the changing needs as the internet becomes the operating system of the world. In addition to these changes, we're seeing to the culture additions like social networking, Twittering. At the launch last year, I wonder how many people had heard of Twittering now in our daily dialogue. To governance, new concepts, multi-stakeholderism, a new model of global governance of crucial resources. To inventory systems, as we contemplate an Internet of Things, when, for example, every street light in the world is going to be connected to the internet so that its managers know when its bulb needs changing. Or when the nanocomputers in all of our bloodstreams are feeding back our health data to Health Central in real time. So the future's an exciting place, and it's coming. And as you know, Liz shared in that excitement, and it's that spirit of excitement and that promise for the future that we're celebrating tonight. So the Internet Industry Awards are the Foundation's way of encouraging, recording, and tonight showcasing the best and brightest applications and uses of the internet being developed in New Zealand. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had an absolutely excellent first round of applicants, and I want to thank every one of those applicants who entered. You come from an incredibly diverse range of sources in keeping with the breadth of applications of the internet in New Zealand. We've had applications from government departments, individuals, banks, a political party, technology companies and charities, to mention but a few. And I feel so reassured about the future of New Zealand when I see the level of ingenuity, of style, of the application of skills that this crop of applications represents. New Zealand's technology future is in good hands. And I know that this foundation has hit upon a superb way of remembering Liz and growing New Zealand at the same time.